smiling. Looks like I was frozen. But
It looks like you're frozen. I'm having like
oh my goodness, now you're
PTSD from
frozen.
freezing
Oh,
online.
yeah. We've been having technical difficulties today.
You
Amy
just
says that
froze. Am
it's
I frozen?
Mercury retrograde. Yes. Yes, I'm still seeing your lovely face with a huge smile on it. You just had this big smile on it. You were just frozen that way. It was beautiful to see. It was like,
like those kind of things that are on the cars. They're like smash. The rubber things that they put on cars. All right. I'm Amy Johnson. You probably know that if you're watching this. I'm with Sheila Arthur.
Hi, everybody.
Dear friend and co-facilitator of the Discover Your Core Values workshops and Create Your Inner Compass workshops and more. And we are here on the 11th of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific time to talk about living our values every day. We live our values every day, which is a radical act of love. We do like to do that because it makes us smile and laugh and remind us of what we're doing here, because it's not about, values can be so serious, and it's a serious time right now. If ever there was a time to get crystal clear about your values, it's now. Know what they are, know how you're living them, because a lot of times we don't realize it, that we're actually not living in alignment. We feel dissatisfied or discontent, and we can't quite put our finger on what it is. And we think it's one thing and it's another, but often we're out of alignment with our values. Don't you think, Sheila? Haven't we?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, because it's you're just pressing up against this a boundary that you have that leads to feeling just that dissonance and that discomfort. There's just something, there's this nagging feeling that everything's not okay, or you're not, just dissatisfaction. And generally it's around not being in tuned with the values. And so this is why we're talking about a values tune-up today, right?
Right, exactly.
So, yeah.
So I think as we do each month, we start with what are core values. And core values are a single word or single words or short phrases that really connect you to your authentic and truest self. They're the bridge between your innermost self and how you are out in the world. What does that look like? That's why it becomes so important. And they act as an inner compass, so they can decide where to go, where you want to go, and then really importantly, how you get there. Because you may want to go somewhere, but there are many ways to get there. And the core values help point you in the direction of your truest self and your authentic self. And when you're in alignment with that, you'll find more happiness, satisfaction, and fulfillment. And when you don't find that, it's a clue to how to course correct. So that's why when we do this work, it's not about living perfectly. Oh goodness, no. It's really about constant small course corrections and finding our way through that is really connecting back to ourselves, so we don't have to rely on the outside world to tell us what we want to. It really can come from who we are.
Very well stated. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and reminding ourselves of this, that we have this tool at our fingertips, is so important, which is why we talk about a tune-up. Because many people, when you ask them what their core values are, they have a general sense, I believe. Don't you think, Sheila? People,
I think so. I do
have some idea of what they are.
Right.
But when you get past that first question, oh, what are they? It's kind of like, ooh, you can name a lot of words, but what does it really mean to you?
I have just a perfect example in the fore of my mind right now. So yesterday I was going through some paperwork and I came across this exercise that I had done with somebody years ago, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, where one of the questions was to list your values. I think I probably had like 30 things on there, right? I mean, they were all words, but these are the things that I thought were my values, and they are, right? So we talk about in the workshop how you there may be a number of values that are underneath one specific word or phrase that you choose that captures all of those things. But I had all of these things. I think they're all the same, but the way that I've done this through the work is so different now because I can clearly see how it's like, oh my goodness, I had all of these great words and things that I really believe in and are super important to me. But I love the way that I've been able to describe them and name them and live from them in a different way because of that clarity that I got doing the work and as I continue to do the work. So it's a big difference. I think everybody can probably name them. And I guess the big thing is how closely do they actually reflect?
Right. Yeah. And it's that ownership in a way. I don't know if ownership's the right word, but but it's kind of the embodiment of them.
I love that word.
Ownership, because we
I
don't
love
think
the
we
word
own a
embodiment.
word or value, but we embody a value, and which ones really resonate with our truest self. When we're out in the world, it's something we can, in a minute, we can rely on to remind us of who we are, in a sense. Or, I know I've been going through some great things and challenging things, and in a moment, it really helps to know where I'm living in integrity or not, because integrity is one of my values. And am I having enough fun too, right? So that would be my value of flourish. I can be in integrity a lot, but am I over using it too? And that's where the tune-up comes in, because sometimes we're overusing one value and relying on that value and not remembering that there are others that are parts of us that are are a little quieter.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes that's
Absolutely.
life circumstances, as a single parent and teenagers and life, then, and there's certain needs that show up for me at times, but and it's important for me to remember my value of flourish, which was the most recent value that I have unveiled and revealed to myself.
Which I love. I haven't grown tired of that word at all. As a matter of fact, every time I hear it, I just have this feeling inside. The word flourish just excites me to no end. It's a fabulous word. This is such a fabulous, it's so evocative. It's a fabulous word. And I am so appreciative that it's one of my values too. It's grow and flourish, right? Because I had that
I was
whole
going to say that, grow and flourish.
right, grow and flourish, but I just like, oh, it's like flourish. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm ready for that. It's inviting. It invites me into a space of just kind of being more expansive, and I mean, so many other just beautiful things that come from that. So I just love that word. It's a great word.
And that's what we're aiming for here. And that's the resonance of the words, and why, whether it's a tune-up or establishing them or naming them, that's the process. Is like, we want the words that feel good.
Yes.
To us.
Yes.
And in this sense, we share that value with that specific word. Someone else may choose a word like thrive, that I was deciding between thrive and flourish, but flourish lifted me up in a way that was different.
And it does the same thing for me.
Yeah. And there's no right or wrong with which value you choose, but being able to choose that word for yourself makes such a difference out in the day, all throughout the day. You can really rely on them. It's a reliable tool to use, whether we're at the grocery store deciding what to buy and make for dinner, or we were just talking about thrifting, how we buy our clothes, where we buy our clothes from, and how we work, who we work with, who our partners are, and we collaborate with, and what we offer each day to ourselves and and how we are out in the world. The values really are about the how. I'm seeing more and more, how do I want to show up as myself, with others, as a values and idea integrator, as a collaborator, as a mother, sister, daughter. How do I want to show up, and am I living in alignment with that?
Very, very much so about how you want to show up. I think that's central to it. because there's I was thinking about this word, and the word that I'm thinking of is just I don't even know if it fits, but when we were going back to talking about flourish, there's something for me that's intoxicating about that. So it's intoxicating in the sense that it's exciting and it's exhilarating to think about that word, that it does something to me, right? Like certain fragrances or certain things that you just that get into your senses and get into your way of being, that just like get you lit up. And
Mhm.
that's the thing that I love about the values work, because it's finding those words and phrases that do that for you, right? So that there's
Right.
there's a resonance, and I use resonance a lot because that is like, getting back to the core of who you are, your authentic self. When you have that, it's like ding, 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 ding. It's like something happens, right? And it's like, oh yes, this is it. This is it for me. And I just absolutely love that the values that we choose, the values that we name, the values that we describe can be that for us every day, that
Right.
compass.
Yeah, and that's the point, in a sense, is to be able to find it for ourselves, and
Mhm.
why we take people on a journey to discover them and
Yes.
create their inner compass, and
Mhm.
why fine tuning is important, because it's not a one and done process. We are complex human beings. We oftentimes will have a value too that isn't ours. Have you had that experience where, like, oh, that's actually not my value, that's somebody else's value? And could be from a parent or from a cultural value,
Mhm. Mhm.
another institution, religious or
Mhm.
otherwise, and we've been
Mhm.
operating from that value
Mhm.
without even realizing it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I found that someone will say something to me years ago, and I'll still be replaying that in my mind without questioning who that was. I'm like, wait a second, does that align with where I am today?
Right, 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 right. Yes. And
And
that's again getting back to that authentic part of you, because once you
right,
get to the core of who you are, you're identifying things that really are for you, not what you've learned, not what you've been taught, not what's
right,
been, yeah.
right. And not having to do something just to please another really helps the people pleasing, when we get super clear and fine tune this idea of what our values are, then it's not as uncomfortable or to be with other people. It's easier to kind of connect with others because we
Mhm.
know ourselves better, and we can speak more confidently from that place.
Mhm. 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 I wish I had been clearer about my values at a very early age, which is why I love the work that is happening with you,
Mm.
that we're working on with the teens, with young
Oh,
people,
it's
because
so much fun. Yeah.
that piece, that understanding, like just being able to separate out at an early age what belongs to you and what doesn't belong to you is so powerful. It really is.
Yes.
It's so grounding and it's so powerful. And I was thinking about that in the context of what you were saying about, taking on somebody else's values without really having thought about it, and the way that I was, because the values are the how. So the way that I was years ago was more a reflection of my family's values and other
Hmm.
things, right? Then the how that I was living my life was more closely connected to the how that I was taught
Correct.
versus the how that was right for me. And when I found that I could release what wasn't mine and really focus on the how I wanted to live and how I wanted to show up in the world and what was important to me, it made all the difference in the world. I mean, it was just like, oh my goodness, there's so
Right.
much more ease, there's so much more peace, there's so much more of a sense of connection
Yes.
to who you are than when it's that kind of hypnotic or without consciousness, just going with what you've been taught and
Right.
moving through life that way. And that's why the
So
values work is
true.
just so powerful, because yes, it connects you to you, like the deepest, like you said, the deepest, truest, most authentic parts of you are
Right.
connected through your values. And that's worth a lot,
Right.
have that clarity.
Having that clarity. And I mean, that's such a I really relate to that too. I think I built an entire career in my 20s based on other people's ideas of what I should be, not
Mm-hmm.
who I
Mm-hmm.
am and how I want to
Mm-hmm.
be in the world. And it took
Mm-hmm.
some maneuvering to emerge from that in a way. But what I found at the end of that was my values, and began, in a sense, this whole journey for myself, which is why I enjoy doing this for others, helping them
Yes, 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 yes.
access it sooner than it took
Yes.
me. And what was I going to say? But that idea of when we're out and about, once we do the clarity work and fine tuning them, so we really know what we mean, in an instant, we can rely on them as we practice in values connection and here using them daily. That's why we talk about living our values every day, because once we can rely on them, we can do, it's almost like deep work in an instant. It connects us to us so
Mhm.
quickly. So we're in a conversation, or we're being asked a question in an interview, or we're making a decision. Oh, wait, I can think about this value. Oh, or this value. And so it's a pretty immediate connecting tool, so that we're not having kind of buyer's remorse. If we do, we have a path to course correct, but
Right, right, right,
but
right.
it's and sometimes I certainly have to do some writing about it to get clear. Sometimes it's not obvious, but there's an accessible tool that is not starting from scratch to
Mhm.
get to what
Right.
that
And the other part,
is.
yes, the other part too, Amy, is that we talk about, sometimes the values, like one value may be the one that is most predominant in a
Hmm.
situation. And so it's when we have that those 5 to 7 core values that we can look at them in their totality, right? Because sometimes, if you're making a decision based upon one value all the time, right, that may not be the most balanced way to make that
Right.
decision without bringing in the other parts
Others.
of the values
Right.
that matter too, and then saying, okay, so like in totality, like if I look at my value of grow and flourish and be true, be authentic, and presence and reverence for life, okay, so what do I come up with when I look at all of those in the context of what decision I'm making or what I'm contemplating, and then it
Right.
it, it lands better than if I just focused on one. So it's, yeah.
Yes, I was
We
thinking
talk about that a lot in the
we really
workshops.
do. I was
We go
just
a lot
thinking
into that.
about talking with someone, a participant of one of the workshops, who was talking about wanting to leave her job. And and we talked about having her go through her values, and because she said, oh, it just doesn't align with my values. And this was kind of early in the workshop. And then after the workshop, she went and did that. And actually, she found that it aligned more than she realized, and had
Mhm,
a new perspective on it, and could
mhm.
bring that perspective to her job, and ask for what she needed, and was able to, and actually stayed. It wasn't about leaving the job. So it really helps clarify some decisions that we think are one way.
Oh,
When we
yes.
look at all the core values, it enables us to make a better decision for ourselves,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
because it rounds out the parts of us that we don't always think about. So, because
Mhm.
there are those 2 or 3 values we tend to, our default ones, I call them. And and they're good values. I
Oh,
still,
they're great.
they're great. It could, but that's kind of where we started. But I could also have no
Mhm.
fun,
Right, 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 right.
Where's my dance party fun, my flourish fun?
Right.
So that's we do have a fun approach to creatively using our values in our lives. So that is definitely part of it.
Mhm.
And I think as we go through this, it's, fine tuning is just about whether you've done one of our workshops or done values work elsewhere. It's just, as long as you have a set of values, 5 to 7, that you can claim yours, the fine tuning process is just like anything, it's calibrating. Is this working? Is it shifting? Is it the right word? Is it not the right word? And that's the process of fine tuning.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and we talked about that too, I think in the last workshop, just as I've looked at my values most recently, being in a different place on my journey, my entrepreneurial journey, like some of those, like they feel like life feels different now, the person that I'm becoming now. feels like I need to just take a look at them and make sure that all of the ones that are going to move me forward are represented here in a way that, I have that like just that momentary, that like right away, that's like, yes, this the resonance with them. And so
Right.
I'm looking at fine tuning mine as we've talked about that,
Right.
fine tuning mine
Yeah.
in this moment, which happens because life happens and you change and you're
Right.
shifting.
And sometimes it's not, I have found it's not always changing our values, but mine, I change the definition of them, or how
Exactly.
I apply the definition. So sustainability has been a value of mine for a long time. I've debated if that's in myself, if that's the right word, but it continually goes back to that. But regenerative is a word that really means something to me. So I've added that into my meaning. The
Mm-hmm.
part of
Mm-hmm.
sustainability for me is regenerative,
Mm-hmm.
rather than, do I change it to regenerative or do I change it to,
Right.
and
Right.
for
Right.
me,
Right.
sustainability felt to for me, the core value, but adding regenerative added a whole other depth to it
Mm-hmm. I can see that. I can definitely see that.
that I can then apply to not just the earth and the world, but also to business. How do I have a regenerative quality in my business, in my parenting, in my day-to-day life? So, which helps me be more sustainable financially,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
across the board.
I love that. That's a great example. That's really good. Yes.
So, well, anything else to add, Sheila?
I don't know. I think this was always, as always, this is such a good conversation to have. It never ceases to amaze me how powerful talking about this, and actually the attention that I spend each month in particular talking about living my values, and just sharing that. The attention always helps me to learn something new about myself and something new
Right.
about this work. It always deepens it. It always does. And it's like amazing to me that it's like it is, but wait, there's more.
There's
And
more.
there's always more. There's always
There's
more.
always
And
more.
it's fabulous. I love it. I really
I
love
love
it.
it
I
too.
appreciate these conversations with you because they just always touch me.
Yeah.
And yeah, and help me to really understand and embody and live my values in a more powerful way every day.
Yes to that.
Yes, yes.
Let's go leave out with our live and our
Live
live our values
values
every day.
every day. Yes. Yes.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Bye. See you next time.